This is Vladimir. Today I do another meditation on prudence. My goal is to talk about it for half an hour or more or less so. Be clear, make no mistakes, practice my English as well as my understanding of the concept. Yesterday I already said some things related to prudence, but I don't want to recap on those things. I want to start a new path and see where it's going to lead me. So prudence, what is prudence? How we understand it, how I understand it. I would say that one thing that immediately comes to my mind is that we now are living in the world of the internet, in the world of our thoughts, more than in the world of our senses. Even though we may sense, of course, we see what's going on the internet, and we hear. We can't touch anything there. We can't taste it. But vision and hearing are key senses which make us perceive what's going on the internet. And the question is, how do we choose what we actually watch and listen to on the internet? And prudence, if we consider it as a guiding star, if we think that prudence is a quality which helps us to navigate this landscape, to make right choices, we may say that every day, whenever we go on the internet, prudence helps us to choose the right content. Sometimes, for example, my experience, I don't rely on YouTube algorithms. When I watch YouTube, I try to look for the information which is necessary for me, which may help me to further develop some ideas. Now, for example, I'm working on the idea of prudence, and I watch some men talking about prudence, about other virtues. How do I find these men? Well, first, of course, I type an inquiry, and then I listen to some different people, choose the one or few people whom I can, who are quite appealing to me, and then I watch them. And then I may watch some other videos by these men and sometimes subscribe to their channels. Also, sometimes I work on more broad concepts, and I may find some course of lectures, and then I go and watch an entire course of lecture if I like the professor, the way how he speaks, even though these lectures may be old, recorded maybe in 2008 or in 2009 or 2010. It doesn't matter. If I like the professor, I may watch 10, 15, 20 lectures at once. And I think it's prudent to use this method in navigating the internet. Instead of watching everything, there must be an understanding of what one is doing. And when one knows what he is doing and what kind of information he needs, it's much easier to get the right information. Whereas when one thinks about one thing and watches videos related to another thing, you may just basically digress and go somewhere where you don't want to be. But anyway, prudence, when I think about prudence on a day-to-day basis, I see that even in small choices, whether to watch one video or another, whether to spend an hour listening to an entire lecture, or maybe it makes sense to stop it after 5 minutes of listening and find something more suitable. So prudence basically helps to understand, to evaluate the content and evaluate the sometimes people who present this content. And that's like one way of analyzing this idea of prudence. So prudence, basically you learn to get exactly what you need, the right type of information, instead of watching everything randomly or following algorithms. You have to moderate like this this in a particular way by using prudence. Well, just one thing. I guess there are many other small things in our daily life which may be changed if we pay attention to prudence, if we ask ourselves every time before we want to make something unusual, or not necessarily unusual, but any type of activity. Basically, we may ask ourselves before doing anything, is it prudent or not? Before recording this video, for example, I should have asked myself whether it's prudent or not to talk about prudence and record myself on a video and then publish it on YouTube. And I didn't ask, to be honest, I didn't ask myself whether or not it's prudent, but for me, intuitively, it feels that it's prudent, since for me, it's a way of communicating with an artificial intelligence or with the entire world. So I don't consider it as a tool. I mean, YouTube as a tool by which I can gain popularity and attention, even though there are some small impulses which always bother me, which push me to do some silly things from time to time, but not always. But essentially, my purpose here is to communicate with the world. And I consider this type of communication very productive, since when I talk to the computer or to the camera and upload these videos on YouTube, I have a intuitive realization that it's a real dialogue, and I don't actually talk to somebody in particular, but it feels still as if there's a conversation, and it helps me to organize my behavior. So if I think about something, for example, a few days ago, once again, I came up with an idea to meditate on prudence every day for 5 minutes. And while I was thinking, it was kind of weak. But when I recorded a video and talked about it and said that it's a nice idea, and even tried to persuade other people to think about prudence for 5 minutes every day, I became more no, I I got an extra motivation for doing this exercise on my own. And now, well, I guess I got even more than necessary, since today, for example, I was thinking about prudence probably a couple of hours, not straightforwardly. So it wasn't the type of thinking which I'm doing here right now. Now I'm consistent, and I'm trying to focus only on prudence and to keep in mind the idea of prudence without looking aside. Whereas from after the moment when I woke up, I was thinking about prudence from time to time, and I've noticed that the idea came to my mind spontaneously without my effort. So I didn't try to set a particular time period and think about it deliberately. It was just natural. I was doing my exercises, then I was eating, then I was walking, and while doing certain actions, I naturally thought about prudence, what it may be, and how I may make a discussion, a conversation, a meditation today. So I was thinking, what would I say, and how it's how it's going to turn out. And then I tried to stop myself. I didn't try to think about it deeply, since I understood that if I started thinking about it deeply, then I wouldn't be able to do the same here. I'll just repeat whatever I thought before. And here, I don't want to repeat anything. My purpose here is not to teach somebody something. It's not to explain things which I already understand. My purpose here is to talk for half an hour, to learn to speak naturally, confidently about particular ideas which I study, and discover some new understanding of these ideas. But still, again, I'm saying that, if I record these videos and publish them on YouTube, it gives me a sense that it's a sort of communication. It's a real dialogue, and it also changes my perception. It changes my perception in a way that if I talk about prudence, for example, and if I give some promises, or if I try to persuade somebody to do something else, I essentially persuade myself to do something else. And all these promises, of course, then I think about them more rigorously, and I try to accomplish whatever I said I'm going to accomplish, or whatever I advise to other people. Often we see that people give many advice, but they do not follow their own advices. In my case, I'm trying to do exactly the opposite. I'm trying to follow every advice, and even, sometimes I use this type of communication as a tool to control my feelings and my emotions and my behavior. So I know that, for example, if I say that I'm going to talk about something for 10, 15, 20 days, and if I publish it on YouTube, I'll there are 80% or 90% or 95% certainty that I'll do that. And if I just say it to myself or think about it, the possibility is much lower. And of course, it depends. Sometimes I may say, I'm in this business for for more than 10 years. And first I used writing and journaling, and it was only the one means by which I basically learned to modify my feelings, my behavior. And firstly, it was a war against my negative habits, let's call them that way. And only later, when I discovered videos and the internet, I started working on my behavior through speech. And yeah, in both cases, I guess in writing, it's also very powerful. When I write to my journal, whatever I'm going to do, if I'm persistent, usually it takes 1 or 2 or 3 days to convince myself completely to do certain things. So even if I don't want to do something, still, if I write about it for 3 days, and if I try to focus my attention, and if it's really important, there's very little chance that I'll not be able to do that. And vice versa. So there are certain things which I don't like to do, and sometimes I find myself doing them. For example, playing video games, or whatever it is, some video games like Warcraft, or it may be chess, or it may be anything else. Whenever I find myself doing that, well, sometimes I just allow myself to do that for a couple of days, but as soon as I see that it gets worse and I'm losing control, it takes just a few days to write about it in my journal and to analyze what I'm doing and persuade myself to stop doing that. And then I naturally have no desire to continue. Yeah, and there were in English it works much better than in Russian. I remember I was doing the same in Russian. 2016 was a serious breakdown, let's call it that way. So it was first at the summer before I actually shifted to English. And at that summer, I couldn't take control over my passion for an entire summer. Yeah, the summer of 2016. There were some fluctuations. So 1 week I was playing without writing anything. The next week I tried to persuade myself by writing to stop doing that, and I was successful. Then the next week again I was playing, then the next week I was trying to persuade myself to stop doing that, and it was the entire summer. And later in March of 2017, before I fully shifted to English and stopped using Russian whatsoever, I also had a month when I lapsed in this behavior. But anyway, it's kind of self-control. So now I'm talking more about temperance rather than prudence, since prudence is about seeing. So it's about seeing where your actions lead you. And now I see that talking about prudence for 20 minutes, 30 minutes every day, it's very prudent, since it leads me to deeper understanding of myself, of prudence, and also it helps me to focus my attention once again on the topic. I don't think that I'm going to talk about it for a month or a few months every single day and do meditations on it. But 5 minutes a day, yeah, perhaps it makes sense. I'll try to maintain this type of meditation, 5-minute meditation, for at least a month. Since the next week I'll choose another topic, and I guess it's going to be a temperance, and I'll do meditations on temperance and talk about temperance for half an hour every day to see how far I may go and what can I understand. Okay, now I have 10 more minutes, and once again, prudence. What is prudence? I still haven't read Aristotelian explanation of prudence in his book Nicomachean Ethics, which I'm currently reading. Today, for example, I read a few chapters on liberality, magnificence, and high-mindedness. And yeah, I might talk about these virtues, but I don't think now it's suitable. Of course, okay. So prudence. Once again. So what is prudence? Right choice, and an ability to see the future. It's like prudence. Actually, it's a shortage of providence, and providence it's a foresight. But also it's an understanding of how much attention one should pay to certain things. It may be things which we see, which we hear, which we interact with, and as well it may be things as ideas and concepts. Perhaps it's certain spheres or areas of our lives, like family, friendship, work, health, wealth, whatever. And I guess prudence is the ability to give a certain necessary amount of attention to every sphere, every area, without being obsessed with one particular area, and without ignoring other areas. I guess in my case, I wouldn't say that I'm prudent in many areas of my life. Well, I'm trying to stay prudent, but mostly there's a huge excess in the in intellectual development. For example, for me, learning plays the highest role. I guess it's the most valuable behavior, and it suppresses all other sorts of behaviors. And yeah, I'm trying to control it by deliberately preventing myself from learning, but sometimes it works well, sometimes it doesn't work. Yeah, there are certain things which I'm doing still, like exercises, for example. I'm doing them regularly, but there's no engagement. For example, when I learn something, I do it with such a great passion. I get so much from just reading Aristotle. So to read Aristotle for a couple of hours when I don't have anything else to do, it's one of the best things. And again, by Aristotle, I mean, now it's Aristotle, but it may be any other philosopher. And to record the study in stream, to record the meditation, it's also fascinating exercise. Conducting meetings of the speaking club, yeah, I derive great pleasure from all sorts of things related to intellectual activity. And for me, it's an excess, since I know that, for example, if I consciously were able to invest more attention in food and less attention in intellectual pursuits, it would be more beneficial for my health. If I spend, like, I don't know, 20 minutes a day, 30 minutes a day to prepare food, to cook. And I know that I actually like cooking too, but well, I like it when I'm doing it, but when there's a choice and I have to choose between, cooking soup and recording a studying stream, I'll probably, like, in 90% I'll choose recording a studying stream. Well, it doesn't, I don't need to cook soup every day, obviously, but yet there are so many other dishes which I may cook and I don't pay too much attention, and I spend more time thinking and writing and reading and listening and doing all sorts of linguistic exercises. Too much, 10 hours a day, sometimes more. And I know if I would be able to control it, so instead of 10 hours a day, I think 5 hours a day would be perfect, or uh, maybe sometimes 3 hours a day, sometimes 7. It depends on this situation and the day. But I don't know. I don't know what else to do. I can't really cook for an entire day, and I can't walk for an entire day, since I also dedicate enough time to walking and running and doing exercise. But I don't have so much physical power. But intellectual power, for me, it's, yeah, I may basically sit here and talk for for 5 hours every day, and it will probably make much more sense. But I know that after a few days, again, I'll feel exhausted, and I don't want to get there. I want to be persistent, and I want to moderate all these passions. Even now, it's time. I guess it's been 25 minutes. It's enough. Another exercise, prudence. Yeah, I tried to think about prudence for 25 minutes, for half an hour. I digressed so many times, but it's not important. What's important is to be able to talk, to focus my attention, and practice English, practice grammar and meditation and all sorts of stuff. Okay, I think it's enough for today. That's all. See you next time.